And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou, standing at Woodland Stud. Hope the Christmas and New Year racing period is going well for you. Michael Guerin, we had an unreal evening at Alexandra Park on the 31st. Terrific harness racing action it was, but it was dominated by one stable. Evening to you.
Sure was. Hi Greg, big hi to everybody at home. Happy New Year. Haven't seen you so far on Trackside 1 for New Year. It was a strange day because there was a lot of the same thing, a lot of Groundhog Day about it, but there were very different stories inside those stories. So yes, you're going to see a lot of the All-Stars colours tonight, but that wasn't just the story of Auckland Cup Day / night. And Greg, now we have this huge summer coming up with $5 million worth of races, and I'm talking just the top level stuff, not all the grass track racing we have here in New Zealand. All that's coming up. And if you put a market out for every major race in Australasia at the moment, New Zealand horses would probably be favourites off the back of the last couple of weeks for 95% of them.
Yeah, unreal statistic that is. Let's get straight into it with the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup, of course, first run in 1890, so steeped in history. Vincent, he's arrived on the open class scene. We saw that 2 weeks ago in the Lincoln Farms Franklin Cup, and this is what he did in the Auckland Cup.
Vincent, Titan Banner, Heaven Rocks on the outside. Vincent, 75 to go. Heaven Rocks, Titan Banner. It's an all-stars show in the Auckland Cup, and Vincent too good. 27 the last quarter, so a 54-3 last half. Titan Banner second, Heaven Rocks third.
You never set any records out there, although his last half might be right up there in terms of Group 1 winning performances, but you only have to go fast enough to win.
Oh, that's right, and he's such a laid-back big guy. Like, once you find the top, he's happy just to dawdle along, and then even here at the Bell, he was happy just to pull up and run out the gate. He thought, oh yeah, it's all over. So he's that casual and laid back, and I think that's a big thing for him. You know, that's why he's going to be such a great horse.
Natalie, you had that big monster, Mini, you call him, alongside you at the 400. Gee, the pressure was on then.
Yeah, like, Men's got a good turn of speed, and Timmy was just probably trying to get back to the pegs before he hit that bend. But this guy, you know, he's just that genuine there. He was just there with him, you know, just waiting to kick back through when he could. So, yeah, I wasn't sort of too worried.
What's the plan with this guy? Because we know, ultimately, there should be a clash with Ultimate Machete. Hopefully we'll see in Australia in the Chariots.
Yeah, like, we've just got to, Mark and I are going to work that out over the next few days, all the team from tonight, who goes where and when. This guy's already qualified for the Chariots, so he more than likely will have to run in an open company race to get a run under his belt. So just see, we'll weigh up the pros and cons and just see which way would be better to go with him.
It's been an awesome day for the All-Stars team. Now you've got the trifecta in the Auckland Cup. It's hard to replicate this stuff, but you guys just keep on doing it.
Oh, Greg, you know, so much effort goes in, and it's not just from Mark and myself. I know we get all the credit, but Timmy's been up here with Alison and Eva and Gunter, and they've just done a fantastic job, and Wilson's been there as well. All these horses are spot on. They look a picture, and, you know, the owners let them be good. So, you know, it's so much more than just us.
Yeah, 44.7 the winning time there, about 10 seconds slower than Lazarus went in the New Zealand Cup. But as I said in that interview, it doesn't actually matter how fast you go, you only have to win. You saw Natalie there with the whip firmly tucked under her arm. She never even used that at all, didn't need to. Home in 54.4, Michael, and well, he's emulating what Lazarus has done in his career about the same stage.
Yeah, remarkably similar, almost identical records, obviously. Lazarus by this stage had won a New Zealand Cup, but the comparable races, the Auckland Cup, it's not as glamorous, of course. It's a funny race because the middle part was very boring, and people say, oh, I didn't think much of it, but the actual first lap was really interesting because David Butcher had a crack on a 100-to-1 chance, and then they had a bit of a shuffle up, and then Heaven Rocks had a decent crack down the back straight. Like, there was a couple of examples the other day where people do sometimes have this illusion that the All-Stars are team driving, as you see Mark and Nathan looking on, unemotionally, as they tend to be. But you do have that illusion that, oh, they're just, you know, handing up to each other and all this team driving perception. Well, in the 3-year-old race earlier, they really got stuck into each other. There's a bit of emotion. And then in this race down the back straight, Tim Williams could have just sat there and accepted his second or third check. But he actually gave it to this horse, so that made for an interesting last lap. Where does Vincent stand? With Lenny the Shark getting older, and I think Chicago Bull and Soho Tribeca are good without being great horses. You could make a case, I think, Gregory, that he might be the second best horse in Australasia. He's not the second best performed horse, but there's a few markets floating around for a Miracle Mile at the moment, and he is the second favourite. He'll now head to Sydney, so he won't go to Victoria. Head to Sydney. These two people on screen were sitting down and planning things and getting through all sorts of details and activities, or one of them was, isn't it? He'll go to Sydney. He actually can go in another lead-up race to the Chariots of Fire. What that actually means is you no longer have your automatic invite, but he's going to get in the race regardless. And then the question is, through the Chariots of Fire, does he go to a Miracle Mile? I would suggest yes. It's the question on everybody's lips. Is he as good as Lazarus? I don't think so yet. But as we've seen in the last 2 years in harness racing, Greg, things can change really quickly.
Yeah, they can, and he's just doing everything you could possibly ask of him. He's a beautiful horse to be around, and he's taking everything in his stride. Looking forward to seeing him in Sydney again, where he's already won, of course, New South Wales Derby, beating Ultimate Machete.
And the Breeders' Challenge,
yep.
So he's very acclimatised to Sydney. The Lazarus versus him thing's very interesting because they are diametrically opposed on the breeding side of things, and it's actually really important because Lazarus is a beautiful looking horse and he has obviously a very commercial stallion career ahead of him. There's no doubts about that. And let's not get too carried away with domestic stallions, but these two would appear to be horses who have a chance to make it in that regard. One's by Bettor's Delight and this horse is by Art Major. Now, having an Art Major potential stallion in the future could be really handy for the obvious reason. There might be 1,000 Bettor's Delight mares floating around Australasia. Lazarus can't serve them. So all of a sudden 1,000 mares and 1,000 of our best mares are off the radar for Lazarus further down his career. They're not off the radar for this horse.
For Vincent, yeah.
So it's a long way to go before that sort of stuff shakes out, but you can make...
It's heading that way, though.
Well, you can make the case he's potentially worth as much as Lazarus, but making the case he's as good as Lazarus, well, I think he's got a few more big races to win before we have that conversation.
Let's go back to the start of the race, and importantly, how did things go from Heaven Rocks? He's at the back of the field there, and they're about to get underway. AG's White Sox. Now, he had an issue. One of his hobble pins stayed in for about the first 12 or 1,400 metres. He clearly didn't get the start right anyway, but that's not a whole lot of fun. You'll see him pacing not smoothly throughout the race, and that effectively took him out of play. Here's David Butcher going forward and attacking early.
Good on David Butcher, because one of the biggest criticisms of the All-Stars is they get handed these races. Well, Butcher, I'm not sitting out here. And he actually did the right thing by his horse. The horse finished 5th. It was actually a great drive, which wouldn't make people feel comfortable. If you were on Titan Banner and I was on him for a place, I said to everybody in the show last week, get on him for a place. Or Vincent, you thought, what's David Butcher doing? But he's got the right to drive his horse how he wants. And this shuffle up out of this saw him get across to the marker pegged, which is crucial, over 3,200 metres. The big two losers out of the start, as you mentioned, Jack's Legend, who we thought would step away, and AG's White Sox, who's back there with him. Both of them have now arrived as open class horses on their performances at the Cup Carnival and their performances here. But the action at the front end of the field, I applaud that from David Butcher. He said to them, look, I don't care what odds I am, I'm going to put my horse in the best place for it.
Well, this is part of the discussion you were saying before about how some of these races panned out. How much of that do you think was the fact that Mark Purdon wasn't out there? Because he holds the key in so many of the races, not only for his own horse, but the stable horses around him. I'm not trying to knock that situation at all, but the fact that the Grand Master wasn't out there meant that all of those other horses had all the other connections involved in them, and therefore they all just had to go.
Yeah. Look, I think it wouldn't have mattered too much with Mark being out there. It's probably harder to attack the boss, but when you see, technically Natalie is Tim's boss,
yep.
And Tim just served it up to her in the last lap of the race, which we'll see shortly. So when you see that, you think, okay, that's fair dinkum. They've got different sets of owners. You can do what you like. So I thought the racing was competitive all day, and I think the last lap we're going to show you here is a good example of that. I mean, when Tim was attacking down the back straight, I thought, what are you doing, Tim? But he's driving for his own horse. And it didn't make you feel comfortable if you're on Vincent at the $1.35.
Especially the way the big horse can roll in and out, and you're never quite sure what he does.
It's not their job to make us feel comfortable.
No, that's right.
Look, Vincent was clearly the better horse on the day. Titan Banner got the run everybody thought it would get, and therefore got that place money. And Heaven Rocks at least redeemed himself and earned himself a trip to Victoria.
Well, when he pours it on, Michael, he gets rocky again. Now, there was every chance that he would roll into a gallop, as he did 2 weeks previous. But right at this point, Tim decided, and we'll hear from him in a moment, right, if I can get to the markers here, I'm going to give myself a far better chance. And there's a moment right there where you thought, oh, Natalie's going to relent.
Well, I was worried. I thought Vincent must be half gone. I don't know. And then obviously a couple of strides later, that disappears. Now,
look at him getting rough there.
The horse is back in the field. Jack's Legend runs on well. AG's White Sox was enormous and clearly is an open class factor going forward. And even Star Galleria was pretty good. It took the All-Stars to deny him an Auckland Cup win, but let's go back and over it again. Here's those closing stages. Look for AG's White Sox out the back in the blue, finishing on really well.
75 to go. Heaven Rocks, Titan Banner. It's an All-Stars show in the Auckland Cup, and Vincent too good. 27 the last quarter, so a 54.
So great to have a look at that stage of the race, but let's hear from the beaten brigade.
Well, race pattern-wise, it looked to be perfect, but a sprint home doesn't really suit him.
Not really, Greg. I mean, we got the right run. Just needed a bit more tempo in the race. Went great though. He battled a little bit around that last bend at that speed, but he rallied in the straight and he really hit the line great. His last 100 metres was super.
Well, Tim, your batting average wasn't going so great with this guy, but well, he's lived up to his ability today at least.
Yeah, that's right. As we know, he's got bucket loads of it, and I think you've really got to tip your hat to Mark for the work he put into the horse during the week, and the wee changes he did make to rectify the manners. And he's not an easy horse to drive at times. And tonight, I couldn't fault him early. I was able to bring him back, and it was a great confidence boost for the horse and obviously myself to be able to get him around. So yeah, thrilled with the way he went.
You really put it to Vincent from about the 600 metre mark. You obviously believed he could have got to the markers at that stage, and if he had he would have taken some running down.
Yeah, look, probably my fault. I might have thought they moved the winning post for a bit. But look, he just got a little bit aggressive down the back, and I sort of thought Natalie might hand to me if I hit it. I did go quick when I went, but yeah, like you say, the bend just sort of tripped him up. And to the horse's credit, he did a good job to pick himself up and balance up again, and find the line the way he did.
Well, welcome to open class for Star Galleria. He just had 3 All-Stars in front of him.
Yeah, we had the blue colours on, but they just weren't the right ones. No, he's gone terrific, Greg. Like those horses have all had a little bit more practice than him. And yeah, you'd have to be wrapped with the run as a 4-year-old, and the last half is very quick. And yeah, he hit the line. He kept coming all the way up the straight, so we're pretty proud of him. Yeah.
Well, he was parked out for the initial stages of that race too, so we'll learn a lot. And well, he's vindicating what Stephen said all along. He's a good horse.
Yeah, no, exactly. Probably the middle mile we're just about parked until Heaven Rocks come around. Then we got a good trip after that. But yeah, no, he's gone really tried hard and yeah, done his best.
Brent, that wasn't ideal. Wasn't the ultimate result you were looking for?
Not really, Greg. He did begin okay, and then he made a little bit of a break after about 100 metres, which is not him. He's always such a great little pacer, and look, he hasn't pulled up the best. He's a little bit sore, so perhaps that may have been his last run, but he's done good.
He's a magnificent little horse. We saw a great run from the New Zealand Cup, and he's given his connection so many thrills, hasn't he?
Oh, he really has. If they all tried as hard as that, Greg, you'd be here every day. Well, I'm here every day anyway, but it'd be just lovely to just finish with him before he does. I don't want him to break down in a race or anything like that, so that'll probably be his last run.
Yeah, a bit of emotion there from Brent Mangos, but it just shows you what that horse has meant to him and his connections, and you were unlikely to see him again.
Well, it sort of shows you what all horses mean to their connections. I mean, look at the horses out there who had no chance of winning the race. Horse like I'm a Jolly Wally for Anna Donnelly. But I said to Anna before she went on the track, it's great to see you in an Auckland Cup. She's been around harness racing for a long time and driven at a great level. And I'm a Jolly Wally hasn't had the success of a Maxim, but they mean just as much to the people involved. So it's not just about the winners. I was really happy for Stephen Reid and Star Galleria. I think the slower 2 miles probably helped him, but at least he's proven he's an open class horse, and I wasn't sure about that coming back into the season. Jack's Legend, total forgive on him. He goes back to Cambridge on Friday, and AG's White Sox has been probably the biggest mover, I think, in
He's a good horse.
Yeah, he is.
Yep.
He's more and more he reminds me of Mossdale, kind of the now late Mossdale, kind of, but I think he might be a better horse long term. It's still Mossdale kind of ran third in a New Zealand Cup and a Victoria Cup. So there's a lot of questions going forward about where they're all going to end up, and obviously Vincent goes with Titan Banner, so the Quinella mates go to Sydney and they'll park up there for a while. I'm not entirely sure Sydney is going to suit Titan Banner because of the shorter races, but they do go fast, which will suit him. Heaven Rock's really interesting. Cambridge this week, then Ballarat. Now, I think Mark wants to take him to Australia and hope he comes out of it a more mature
See how he
horse.
copes.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. Ballarat against Lenny the Shark, who may slightly be on the wane, so that'll be really interesting. That's earlier this year. That's we'll show you that later on, all the stuff in a graphic, but that's on the 20th, so it's only a couple of weeks away. And then the Hunter Cup against Lazarus. And then some of the horses back in the field, I think a lot of those AG's White Sox type horses.
Well, he goes to Cambridge, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And then you'd be thinking, okay, shall we sneak down to an Invercargill Cup, which is like
the end of the month.
27th, that sort of stuff. And they hopefully now get some chances at some easier kills. Not that the reds are easy. So I think a lot of people, and not even some of the harness racing fans, Greg, they love the All-Stars horses, but they'll be happy to get to some grass track racing, some Invercargill Cups and some other things where they don't have consistently the same stable winning. And I think a lot of other trainers and owners will feel the same way, because it is, for want of a better word, it's a juggernaut, and it's a juggernaut at the moment. I had a really good talk to Mark yesterday. He said, this is the strongest team I've ever had. And it has to be, because while they were running that meeting the other day, this is how big it's got. They're running a meeting with a trifecta in an Auckland Cup, and 6 hours away on a plane is Lazarus, Ultimate Machete, Piccadilly Princess, and Have Faith in Me. You know, the logistics of where they have to travel and people they have to travel with and staff and who's going. Yesterday, Natalie Rasmussen's a professional. She knows we're on the show today, so she sent through to us to relay to you, because it has a huge impact on the markets, where all the horses are going. And it was 3 pieces of paper, you know, all this scribbling on it and flights for people and staff, and it was quite staggering. I sent back to her and said, you're a machine, because as she said there, Mark and her get all the kudos, but they've got a lot of staff, and I don't know some of these people's names. I sort of know them to look at, but I don't know exactly who they are. But those staff have to operate to the same level. And it's sort of similar to what we do here at Trackside. Like, you and I come on the shows, but there's people in the directing room and cameramen and people who have far better skills than we have in some other areas. And you sort of got to recognise the fact that without all those staff, Mark and Nat couldn't do this. If there was just Mark and Nat, they could train 15 horses. So it is a gigantic operation, and a lot goes into it. One of the highlights of Vincent winning was the fact that Gene Feast, who owns the horse, wasn't there, and Bill was there.
Yeah.
Did you see what Bill was wearing?
Yeah, he's a
Bill looks like he'd just come off the farm.
Yep.
And it's not all glamour. He didn't want to talk. He spoke after the race, but yeah, there are different elements to it. It seems like the same thing all the time, but it's not, because they're owned by different people. And the best example of that's coming up in about 10 minutes when we show you the Chase Auckland story.
Michael, one race they didn't win, well, they didn't have a runner in it, the National Trot, of course, and gee, this was another totally professional performance by Temporale as he chases down one of the best going around.
Kiss me or not, Speeding Spur, Temporale, 150 left to go. Speeding Spur, he finds plenty. Temporale comes strongly. Kai Valley Blue's looking to come back. Speeding Spur, Temporale goes to him. Temporale's got the win. Temporale, Speeding Spur, Kai Valley Blue, you're going to kiss me or not.
Tony Herlihy, half a dozen wins in this race now, and this horse, he's just a genuine racehorse, isn't he? He's now a Rowe Cup and a National Trot winner, and not many can say they've done that.
No, he's doing a great job, as you can see. He's only 5-year-old too, which is great. And yeah, no problems. He's got even a longer future, hopefully.
Tony, you got a beautiful run, one out and one back. Was Speeding Spur in front of you? Where were the confidence levels, say, a half from home?
Yeah, well, I knew Speeding Spur. He'd got fairly much his own way, a little bit in front, and yeah, he's a hard horse to get past, and he took all the way down the straight to get past him.
This horse was purchased at the yearling sales, not a huge outlay. You're going to tell me that you picked him out?
Well, actually, I liked him. He reminded me of Diamond Field a lot, so I have quite a jumpy little fella and what have you. But yeah, so I just sort of went on that. And the big help was getting Kerry O'Reilly to break him in, I think.
Yeah, he's a pretty good horseman, as we know. This is the family of the Don's son and son of the Don, so there was plenty of breeding in behind him.
Yeah, and he's just got better and better and more settled and more tractable all the time, so which is great.
Tony, you've been to Australia with him before. After this performance tonight, I guess that's a beckoning again.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to look at it, Greg. Yeah, we'll have a talk to the owners and whatever. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and just go from there.
It's been a great race for you in the past. You got yourself another national trot. Well done.
Thanks very much, Greg. Ta.
Yeah, really good performance from Temporale once again. Yeah, 20,000's turned into about 260,000
Can I ask
now.
you a question? Did you think he could do that? Run past
No.
Speeding Spur?
I didn't. No.
Neither did I.
No.
And it's great that he did. I mean, Speeding Spur with Monbay parked, and Monbay's obviously, parked for the meantime. We're not going to see him for a while. Clearly, I think going into the summer was everybody's best trotter in the country. But on their performances this summer, and that's not slagging Speeding Spur because he has still to build up that fitness base. But on their performances this summer, Temporale is racing better, so at the moment is the better horse, which is a strange sentence to form, but it's very hard to argue with.
57 to 28.8. That takes some running down. I'm not convinced that Speeding Spur is the same horse of 18 months ago.
Well, he's not.
He would have run away. He would have run away and won that.
Clearly he's not, but maybe Temporale.
It might be better than what we're all thinking.
100% I think he is, and Tony, big call, as Craig said the other day on the live coverage, not to go to Cambridge. He said no, and he dodged that, and I think that helped. He had a fresh horse.
He's going there this week, of course.
Yeah, he goes there this week, which is a nice trial for him heading to the Southern Star. Now, the Southern Star is awfully serious. It's 300,000 Australian dollars. It's huge money. It's worth as much, almost as the Rowe Cup and the Dominion.
Combined.
Combined, almost.
Yep.
So, it's earlier this season than people realise. It's on the 27th. I thought it was on Hunter Cup night, but it's not. Hunter Cup night's the 3rd. I would suggest these horses, the first 3 home would go. Kai Valley Blur, again, if you had told me Kai Valley Blur, who's now 10, would be racing as good as Speeding Spur, I would have thought that was impossible.
Well, he went magnificent in this race.
He was the run of the race.
Yeah.
So, Temporale's been to Australia. He has good mobile gate speed. He seems to be quite a fluent horse, Greg, so you would hope he has no soundness issues going forward. He could be around for a long time. And if he's around for a long time, looked after by Tony, driven well by Tony, he could win a stack of races. But already, he's got a good horse's record.
Yeah, he has. Yep, he's won 2 open class Group 1 races, and as Tony quite rightly points out, he's only a 5-year-old. So a lot to look forward to there. What about those who were just in behind Temporale?
Josh, everything seemed to be panning out beautifully for you. The problem was there was a pretty good trotter in the 1-1.
Yeah, he's a good horse, Temporale, and I didn't realise what sort of trip he was getting, but once he gets that sort of sit, he's pretty lethal.
What did you make of your guy? Is he still down on his absolute peak performance, do you believe?
Oh, look, he was pretty ready today. I was happy, even straightening up. I felt like I had the edge on them, but he's just gone down the last bit. I couldn't be happy with him. He's coming off 2 injuries, and he couldn't do much when he got beaten in the neck. So we're happy.
Yeah, it's hard to be critical of him, isn't it, when you consider what he has gone through?
Well, that's right. He's probably expected to win, but he stuck his neck out and he did all he could. So, but we're happy. He's got beat fair and square by a good horse.
What do you do with him from now? Is Australia still on the radar?
Yeah, for sure. Plenty of racing for him over there. I just have to go back through and talk to the owners too what we're going to do. But I think from January right through till March, there's racing all the time. So all going well, we'll head there.
Timmy didn't end up in the right spot, but gee, he's been brave.
Oh, very much so, Greg. Obviously, it was sort of a tricky draw. It's sort of hummed and hard, do we drop through the fence or not? But look, he relaxed lovely in the death, and it's always the way, sort of tricky fields when Josh landed the front. But to my fella's credit, he's grinded it up the whole way up the straight and stuck on and run a gallant third.
Been great for Brent Lilly. It was a gutsy call to bring him over and take on our best, but it's been well and truly vindicated.
Oh, for sure, and I can't thank Brent and the owners for putting me on. Probably just Johnny on the spot in that aspect, and it's worked out really well.
Well, Blair, a little bit more luck, and she might have been a winning chance.
Yeah, she's going bloody good, Greg, actually. Obviously drawn 1, we took the shortcuts and just got hampered a touch around the last corner when Tony Hill, he's run a gallop. But, to her credit, she really found the line well.
Yeah, so the almighty Johnson having a gallop, and yeah, look, I'm not saying You're Gonna Kiss Me or Not was going to win, but she's clearly back to something like her best.
Yeah, I think she's best saved for one run. These horses, a lot of them, go to Cambridge for the 1700 metre race on Friday night.
What do you make of that? Can Kai Valley Blur go back to back at
No
Cambridge?
doubts he can. He can definitely beat... his run was as good as the winner, but with Temporale, when they keep winning, it's pretty hard to not be impressed. Kai Valley Blur, there it is, doing a pretty good job in 4th spot. And everybody knows has been the disappointment. He's had a disappointing carnival with no luck, and he's got barrier 8 again this week.
Well, they did query him in the steward's report, and Ricky said he was lethargic in the warm-up, and he raced that way as well. So I'm not sure where he's at.
They've had no luck in the north.
Well, he keeps drawing the outside.
No, but the Hope Barnes had no luck in the north.
haven't.
I mean, poor old AG's White Sox copying the inside of the second line. That was just brutal. So, but Cambridge will be good on Friday night. It'd be really interesting to see how Heaven Rocks takes on Jack's Legend, who's been cruelled by the draw there, but also Star Galleria. Do they say to Heaven Rocks, well, we're not going to get out of your way, we're going to make you work around these bends? And that trotting race the same.
We'll have a look at those later on the program, so we can take in a couple of videos, which may well encourage you to have a bet.
Be open for them because
yeah,
they're going to be interesting races. They sort of sneak up on you, don't they? Because this meeting's finished, it's Sunday, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take a break here on your box seat. When we return, there's still Group 1 action, and of course, Chase Auckland. He continued on his winning way.
Sure who the best 3-year-old filly in the country is, but we saw 2 very good ones go to war down the straight in the Sire Stakes Championship on Sunday afternoon. And this was a reversal of their Jules result. On this occasion, Gregory, Dizzy Miss Lizzie was in front and Elle Mac came from behind her. On the Jules day, it was something different. Let's get the commentary and Greg's thoughts on the Group 1.
Elle Mac goes to the lead, 75 to go, driven clear. Elle Mac, she'll get her 3rd Group 1 at Alexandra Park. Natalie Rasmussen, she gets 3, All Stars 5. Second over Dizzy Miss Lizzie, and they were followed by Delight and Me. New York Range made up great ground in the home straight.
She was travelling pretty good to the top of the straight, and I know that she sort of has got a good zip in her if you save for that one run. I just didn't know how much it had taken out of her coming around mid-race. But, you know, they were all pretty tired up the straight, and I think she just out-toughed it a bit.
She has been disappointing. Both you and Mark have said that in the media, but Mark gave us a nice push during the week to say he thought she might have turned the corner. He was right.
Yeah, most definitely. She's a bit of a crafty little track worker, and you've got to be right on her case. You know, Mark's spent a bit of one-on-one with her all week, and I think that's helped her a lot.
Okay, so one-on-one from the master, Greg. That looks like Mark might have straightened Elle Mac out by himself. I'm still not sure there's any definitive answer to who the best filly in the country is, though.
No, I agree, but no greater example of how important it is to talk to Mark and Natalie leading into these races, because he said, I believe she has turned the corner, and as I said in that interview, was right. This horse here also turned the corner. Dizzy Miss Lizzie.
You spoke to Nigel McGrath at length, and he gave us the explanations for why it failed the week before, and both of them have improved enormously, and both sets of trainers at least advised us they expected that to happen.
Outside of the second row for both of them, one obviously on the outside and one to its inside, running a Quinella in a Group 1. That doesn't happen very often, Michael. That's not an easy thing to do. Obviously, Better Joy underperformed because she got a beautiful cart into it. That's her wide on the track there, and appeared to, she looked like she was going to come right into it about the 400 metre mark, but again, on the mark is so crucial. That provided the Quinella in the race, and Delight and Me actually went a very good race too.
Yeah, well, the kicker for this is she doesn't go to the Oaks races in Australia. The New South Wales Oaks is the big one on the 24th of February. Now, she won't go because this year it clashes or was very close to the Sales Series pace. So, so I think all these fillies will stay home, and one or two of them are going to need to think, okay, well, I don't want to race these, so I'm going to sneak away.
Better Tricks, I think, is one of those.
Yeah, Better Tricks and Bianco are going to the Oaks, but they're just fillies at the stage. They're not superstar fillies. Bianco hasn't gone on as maybe we thought she would after her first start back for the season. But yeah, if you owned Better Joy, it'd be really tricky to say, do I want to stay home? and race here, or do I want to go try and win a New South Wales Oaks because the Australian fillies aren't superstars? So I think there's a lot of chapters to go in this. As you said, she's a tricky horse. I think Dizzy Miss Lizzie is at least as good as the winner on what I've seen so far. They've now cornelled 2 Group 1s the last 2 times they've met at the highest level. So, yeah, beaten drivers. Let's hear from Blair Orange, who was on the runner-up Dizzy Miss Lizzie.
Well, we saw the real Dizzy Miss Lizzie tonight.
Yeah, it's good to see, Greg. Obviously, things weren't quite 100% in the last start here, but, we put in a race tonight and, we had to really run hard to find the front, but, we got beaten by a better horse on the night, but she's going well for second.
She was low flying around that last bend. We didn't get the Blair glare, but she must have been feeling awfully confident, or you must have been at that stage.
Yeah, look, she jumped on the bridle when I asked her to about the 600, Greg, and I thought I had a lot of horse under me around the corner, but I think just running that really strong furlong to find the front sort of undone her. But, we'll go again, and I'm sure she hasn't finished winning.
Well, on that performance, she's starting to live up to her breeding.
Yeah, look, over the moon with that run, Greg. Obviously, the first run here when she came north was good, and probably a little bit disappointing, on the 16th, and we're able to rectify it this week. And she felt super and she raced super, and she's just finding the line each run, and she gives a great feel. So she's one, she's improving, and just a pleasure to sit behind her.
Yeah, really good run from her, very inexperienced compared to the other 2. But I'm still thinking Dizzy might be better than Elmac, but not a lot of
she's bigger, so she's more imposing looking, so naturally your mind thinks it may
But she's won 3 Group 1s now, Elmac. You can't knock her. All of those at the park, of course.
She's a funny one, isn't she? Because she has won 3 Group 1s, and yet there's no champion vibe about her at all, because she was beaten on her merits in the duel. So, yeah, it's good. It's good to have a lot more to shake out here. Better Joy's probably as good as them. As I said, gee, I'd be tempted to...
You said before that race, you're not sure. Well, I don't know that's been answered for you with that race either.
Well, and these fillies have an enormous array of races. They have the Neverly R series to go, obviously the Domestic Oaks, the Jewels, and the Breeders' Crown seems about 10 years away at the moment. So, yeah, a lot to shake out for these fillies. But at the moment, Elmac maybe just slightly has the advantage. That's the girls. What about the boys? There's no doubt who the best 3-year-old male pacer is in the country. And once again, the bad draws became good draws after they burned up early. Here's the start, Gregory. And we talked earlier about All-Stars team driving. These 2 just got stuck into each other.
Well, the most important thing here, Michael, was the fact King of Swing never came off the gate. David Butcher questioned in the steward's report about why he didn't utilise barrier 1. He said he turned the stick and tapped him on the bum, and he just offered nothing. Ray Green's reported that he has been sent for a spell now. I'd say that run in the Alabar just bottomed him out a wee bit. And he's come back from the Breeders' Crown.
Yeah, Breeders' Crown to Sire Stakes to Sales.
How many horses have tried to attempt that?
None.
No, and that's why.
Yep. But here we go. Here's 2 of the blue colours having a crack at each other, and it's a serious old crack. And this made the race for the horses who were last and second last. So that's a decent crack at the park. Once you get half in front of Tony Hurley and keep on going, those 2 at the back of the field, Chase Auckland, of course, in the black colours with the yellow Alabar sign, and following him, All You Need Is Faith. And Greg, right about now you thought, I know what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, well, 40.4 lead up. And
that's as quick as they go.
Yep, that's right. Out of the trail comes Spankham, so he comes round and has another go. And here's Chase Auckland on the move. He's beautifully gated, he's got a lovely action. And he gave the card into the race to the horse that you were tipping on the show, Michael. You said if you were having a place bet, All You Need Is Faith is way over.
Most underrated horse in the country. There's no buzz on him. There's no love for the horse because he's never won a major race. He's got a funny name and it's hard to say, so people don't quite like it. And Nathan drives him, who's not the stable's 1, 2 or 3 driver. I thought he was here every bit as good as the winner.
Well, as we've already seen, there's been a couple of attacks amongst the All-Stars, and at this point you thought, oh yeah, Chase Auckland's got there pretty comfortably. Nathan really puts it to the inside horse.
Well, he's covering more ground. So the fact that I thought he was going to win at the top of the straight, and Chase Auckland's the better horse, but their performances here, All You Need Is Faith, has gone at least as good.
No doubt at all. This was the 5th win in a row for the All-Stars in this race. And when you consider you've got Have Faith in Me, Lazarus and Ultimate Machete, they've all gone on to be Group 1 free-for-all winners.
Oh, and there's no doubt this horse will. OK, right about now, you were nervous, as were the huge Chase Auckland syndicate. but he fights back like a good horse has to remain unbeaten.
And then Culpeper, Chase Auckland, all you need is faith. They'll duel again, 120 to go. Chase Auckland, all you need is faith. Chase Auckland lifting hard, all you need is faith comes at him. Chase Auckland, oh, he shows all his quality again. Boy, he's good by Auckland Reactor. 238.2 Chase Auckland.
Gee, he's just a good horse, this guy. He's clearly got headed by your stablemate, but he's come back and won again.
Yeah, Greg, I think, that tonight was his biggest test. He was off the track doing a bit of work. And, a testament to him, I think that's a sign of a real good horse. When they're beaten, they never give up. He was tired, top of the straight, but, he never, ever give up.
And he's still got plenty of learnings, as we can see here. He's putting on a bit of an act with his rather large group of owners about to greet him back. But 7 from 7 now. I know the stable's had a lot of good 3-year-olds, even in the short time that you've been here, Natalie, but he's starting to live up to the absolute best of those.
Yeah, he is, Greg. He's a lovely horse, and I think he's got a lot to learn still, and hopefully onwards and upwards from here with him.
Plenty of derbies ahead. I guess the question is, will it be Victoria or New South Wales? Because I tell you what, look out Australia if you do head over there, Nat, because there's going to be a big old team of owners.
Yeah, look, we'll probably, Mark and I have got to do all that tomorrow, work out our Aussie team. We've got a lot of horses to place, and try and split them a bit. But I think he'd definitely be on the cards to either go Sydney or Melbourne. I just think he'd like that long straight at Menangle.
And that's how things can change so quickly, not going to Australia at all now. In fact, he's going to have probably a week, 10 days off, but he can't have too long off, Michael, because he's got to be back at Alexandra Park. I think there's a 3-year-old stakes race at the end of February, and then obviously the Northern Derby.
Right decision. Yeah, he's gone from being a maiden mid-September, who none of us had heard of, to a horse who's won 7 races, including a Group 1 and a $230,000 listed race. He was beaten at the top of the straight. All you need is faith had him. Absolutely had him, and he fought back like a good horse. Here's the big syndicate. Look, really nice vibe in the winner's circle afterwards, because these people haven't paid a lot of money, but to some of them it would have been a lot of money to them to get into this horse. And well done to Alabar. Alabar had a signature day the other day. They set the syndicate up, that's their colours, and they got the job done. But then, of course, they also had Vincent winning the Cup with Art Major being his sire. And Art Major needed a good horse. Chase. Auckland Reactor, you and I did a sales show last year, and we said he needs a good horse. He won 19 2-year-old races, or 19 individual 2-year-old winners in Australia last year. This horse is a huge help. And people can go to the sales this year and buy an Auckland Reactor and go, okay, look, they can run. A little bit like a mini Mark III type thing. So, gee, he's helped. Wonderful horse. He's now clear favourite for the Northern Derby, because the stablemates, 2 of them are going to Victoria, Spankham and Ashley Locas, and 2 of them are heading to New South Wales. All you need is faith and the Devil's Own. So they're going to those derbies, and Chase Auckland will sit here and chill out and relax. But at the moment, it's his 3-year-old of the year title to lose.
Let's hear from those just in behind the unbeaten star.
Well, Tony, he's burnt early, so he's actually gone great.
He made more runs than Brian Lara, didn't he? Yeah, no, he has gone terrific from the outside of the gate. He's gone enormous, really. And he's just a little awkward getting into the passing lane. Otherwise, he would have been even closer. Not saying he was going to beat the other 2, but he just made it a bit awkward getting into the passing lane in the run home. So, no, he's gone terrific from where he drew and how fast the race was run and everything. Yeah.
Timmy was in the early burn, which is never a whole lot of fun.
No, that's right. Obviously, the way things panned out, we took our chance early and were able to find the fence, and we got a cosy spot. But maybe that early burn just took its toll late in the piece. But he never give it away, and he found the line good. He's probably one to follow over the summer when he does get a nice trip and doesn't have to work early. He's I'm sure you'll see him at some point with that turn of foot.
Nathan Purdon delighted, obviously, with the performance of All You Need Is Faith, and he's going to win a good race, but it's probably a race where Chase Auckland's not in.
Yeah, the New South Wales Derby's perfect for him. Big, strong, staying type of a horse. To be honest, at the top of the straight, I wanted him to win. I backed him for a place, so it didn't affect me financially, but I wanted him to win for Nathan. Nathan does a lot of that donkey work, and he hasn't had a big win since he came back to New Zealand, and he's such a likeable fella. But look, Chase Auckland, the syndicate thing's really good for racing. It was a lot of fun in there afterwards, very noisy, which is cool, and it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe from a Feces or some of the bigger owners from the All-Stars winning. So there was a guy there in his rugby league jersey having a beer. It was just good fun to be part of.
I'll tell you what, Culpeper was good. He went a
really
good race.
Spoke to Brett Mingos about him. Obviously, he's WA owned, and he said, look, I don't think he's a Gloucester Park horse, so he might stay here. It's hard shopping here for a horse like him, but yeah, it's good to have him here because he is a good horse.
And if you want to have another look at that replay at some stage, have a look at On the Cards. Barry Purdon, Zachary Butcher was unlucky, ran right up behind them.
Was good.
Yeah, those horses bubbling just below the absolute top echelon of 3-year-olds.
For the punt, when those horses fall back into the grades, they'll just win. They'll just turn up and win races. We saw Culpeper go to Cambridge on Christmas Eve.
Just too good.
So the format of those races is really important for you, but even more important for the agents and all the buyers in WA. They'll be looking at that 7th to 10th and just salivating because the All-Stars won't be going to WA for those races. And that's where a lot of people stand at the moment, Greg. They'll be thinking, right, where are they going? Where am I not going? What it makes is it's really hard for anybody else to want to go to Victoria or New South Wales when you know you've got 2 each, potentially 4 for the New South Wales Derby if they go back. So well done to Alabar, though. I think they were the big winners. Alabar and the Chase Auckland Syndicate, they were the big winners out of that race alongside, of course, Auckland Reactive.
Short break for us here on your box seat with Sweet Lou standing at Woodlands. When we return, we'll wrap up Auckland Cup evening. Yeah, Boxy continues as we continue our review of Alexandra Park. We go back to Heat 2 of the Bricken Farms Young Guns. And, well, this horse here, Jesse Duke, high price yelling purchase, got around that bend, balanced up here. A little bit too strong for Star of Montana and Supreme Dominator. The latter two, trained by Barry Purdon, they'll improve.
They will. Good performance from the winner. The height was huge. I think the price was a little bit low considering that last bend wobble, but clearly he's pretty good and he cost $220,000, so he should be.
Here's American Empress. This time of year seems to suit her. Third in the Group 1 sires last year. Beats a pretty handy sort of mare here in Juice Brogden.
She does, and great to see Jeremy Young get a good horse. He's a very popular guy and he doesn't get a lot of expensive horse flesh to play with. No reason she can't go to a good mares race somewhere, and now qualified for the Jewels.
American Tart was 4th in the Group 1 Queen of Hearts. She's way back on the inside, 4 back the fence there. Goes over a couple of markers. Great information from the RIU about whether she gained an advantage or not, as opposed to how many she went inside. That is what the rule is these days. She beat Joe's Dream, who remarkably paid an enormous place price.
Yep, and prime example of the marker pegs, even if you're on over top of them, being paid in gold at Alexandra Park. You just can't go around them when they're going quick times, and those who got wide on the track willing to forgive. This horse was plunged last race of the day and was a pretty comfortable watch.
Yeah, look, he's smart. He won the Jewels, as we know, so he's a Group 1 winner, taking on effectively not even middle grade horses, and he bolts in here, so much so that he's now heading to Australia.
Yep, and he's Australian bred, so there's every chance he might stick over there for a while. I think he's probably eligible for a Vic breed or one of those type of things, so he can probably stick over there. But that's a prime example of when you see horses racing those good 3-year-old races and they go back into the grades, even though the horse you ran second's a good 3-year-old, when you see that, just back them. It's just the tried and true betting way to go. They don't pay much a lot of the time, but they just win most of the time.
Well, that was the premier action out of Alexandra Park. What about some of the country cups that have been going on? There's been some good ones. Here's the Gore Cup. Royal Bengal has been doing a great job since linking up with the Barons, Ken and Tony, and this was an emphatic victory in the end. Really nice type of horse and beautifully driven by Dexter Dunn. So, yeah, brave he was, and he was simply too good for them in the Gore Cup, and he's now winning them in a row, so yep, he's developing into a nice little horse, is Royal Bengal. Mott Carrara Christmas Cup is where we head next, and this horse here, Don Domingo, came off the back mark. This was Blair Orange at his best. This horse probably wouldn't have got home for anyone else, it'd be fair to say. This is a blanket finish, Michael, when he gets there. You watch Blair just kid to him to get there by the barrister margins.
Yeah, great finish. Closing stages here all across the track. This is indicative of why we love grass track racing as a spectacle.
Don Domingo. Blackheart, they hit it. Don won it. Don Domingo in a lineup. For the Miners, we've got Diamonds.
Yeah, it was a good performance from him, and he made it 5 from 17. He's honing in on $50,000 in the bank, and as you can see, he got there by a very short margin. This was a cracking contest, the Omakau Cup, off the gate. We saw plenty of action from Raka Pukaruna and Tiger Thompson, and that's a Mongolian hero who was nosed out in the Ashburton Cup, but he's arrived, this horse, and he was really strong in the end.
Another one of these 4-year-olds, AG's White Sox, Jack's Legend, they're coming through from the good 3-year-old races last year, and obviously Vincent and Ultimate Machete lead that bunch, but look, he's a horse you can have a lot of fun with. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in a New Zealand Cup by November, which is
spoke to Brad
later this year.
Yeah, spoke to Brad Mowbray about that. He went 3:10 there. This was a test case for him because he's taken him away before and he didn't handle it. He's handled this trip clearly, so Taylor Mile Messenger, after he's been through a few Addington races just to harden him up.
And like AG's White Sox, when they get to those races, they get toughened up and they start to learn how to dig deeper. So, look, even though he probably can't win those races, if you go to them, you're going to end up going through the process you need to go through to become an open class.
Delishka's actually going around in the Roxburgh Cup, and Brad said to me he's pretty keen to go to Victoria. There's some good mares races. He would have to take on Piccadilly Princess, but she's flying at the moment. Let's go to the Reefton Cup to complete the coast circuit over there, and they couldn't split a couple of them here, Michael. Bailey's Knight, who won the second day, is in front there, of course, at Westport, and Johnny Eyre, who for the 3rd year in a row, well, he finished second to seal the deal 2 years ago, and he won the Reefton Cup the year before.
Yeah, and the West Coast circuit is so full of horses who turn up year in, year out and keep going great there. And Johnny Eyre is one of those, so those horses make that circuit. A dead heat at Reefton would have been one of those for a fair while I'm picking, because the angle was so weird, but there you go. Nice little photo.
It's always a hard one to line up for the commentator and our camera people, but that's brilliant, that footage there.
It was a really good circuit, and Matt Cross did a good job because they're big fields and you don't know a lot of the horses. So, yeah, I thought it was an excellent circuit. I didn't play that much there, but yeah, a couple of good horses will come out of there. And the bonus horse was a horse who the Hopes took a couple of horses there thinking they could win the bonus, or the what it's now the extras money even. And it turned out to be the one who Asset Control, I think it was called, who they didn't expect to be the one.
No, that's right.
And young Ben Hope did a good job. Get those drivers in the circuit over there and they muck around, and it's good for them because they can learn in that less than high pressure situation.
Well, here's Dexter. Let's show you some horsemanship skills here. Previous race, he'd actually fallen out. Nürburgring, who's been tipped on the show before, Michael, had just, that race got abandoned, by the way, had just won that race. Azza, who is a Robert Anderson trained runner, he'd lost the rein, and look at Dexter, he's grabbed the rein, grabs a hold of this horse, and then nonchalantly just hands it back to Robert Anderson and says, here you go, here's your steering wheel back.
Well, as you know, if you've ever jogged a horse and you've had, as I say, one on the lead, it's remarkable. You know, sometimes some strange things can happen with that horse's pull back or try and take off and that sort of stuff. And our horse people have, not just the drivers, the people who drive horses in track work have a real calmness about them, which would stun a lot of people watching this show if they saw her in action. That was pretty much an example of that on a race day. And yeah, Dexter, maybe the top of the tree for that sort of stuff, but gee, there's a lot of amazing skills from the horse people who watch these shows. So to all of you, I'm glad most of them, or almost everybody, got through the summer nice and safe.
Safe we are. Surely going to have one more break and then come back and wrap everything up from what has been a terrific racing period. Tell you about what's ahead in the next month. Here's a momentous moment for Olivia Thornley. I think it was only about her 9th drive, driving for her dad, Robin, away to collect at the Mott in front of an enormous crowd there, Michael. Huge moment for the young lady who, of course, works for the All-Stars.
Yep, one of our favourite parts of the show, showing off people who drive their first winner. Olivia, well done to you. I hope there's a whole stack more coming up in 2018.
What have we got ahead for you in January? Because there is a whole lot going on. We keep referring to it, so this will confirm it for you, Michael. We go to Cambridge, the Flying Mile. More about that very shortly, but Lazarus is back at Gloucester.
Yeah, Barrier 2, Mark now back from suspension, so can drive him. Ultimate Machete goes around in an earlier race, and then they all go to the Fremantle Cup, $300,000 Friday week. Week after that, we get things really busy both sides of Australia. Obviously, there's heaps of grass track racing and stuff at home, and that'll be cool too, but we're showing you the big names. January 19th, the WA Cup for 450,000 Australian. Laz, Ultimate Machete, Have Faith in Me. The next night, Heaven Rocks takes on Lenny the Shark, and there's also the Victoria Derby heats at the Rat. Ballarat. A week later, $300,000 for the Great Southern Star at Melton. Temporale Speeding Spur confirmed for that. Victoria Derby is the same night. The Bonanza worth $100,000 for Ultimate Machete, and there's a $100,000 Mears race. That day, earlier, $32,000 for the Invercargill Trotting Cup as their circuit continues down there. Then on January 31, we're going to come back. Boxing, we're taking a 3-week break because Gregory and I are tired and we need more lozenges. But we'll come back and we'll preview the $500,000 Hunter Cup, which is on Feb 3rd. Lazarus versus Lenny the Shark Part 4. Chuck in Heaven Rocks, Tiger Tara and Soho Tribeca and a whole bunch of others. Could be the race of the season so far. So that's the Hunter Cup. We'll come back in time to preview that.
Yeah, look forward to that, Michael. What about ahead for you this week around this nation of ours? Roxburgh Cup Day it is. 15k goes on the line at 5:37 and we have a start time of the 11 races there just after 1 o'clock. Timaru on Friday, 2:33, so a later start there and the 10 races out of there. Cambridge, we have the Waikato Flying Mile and the Trotters Flying Stakes. 5:09 the start time for the 11 race card there, 25,000 in the pick 6. Cromwell Cup Day on Saturday, 12:12. 11 races there and 15k for the Cromwell Cup. And then we'll be to Rangiora on Sunday. I'll be there for the 10 race program that starts just after midday, 12:11 to be exact. And then we've got Hara also with 10 races there on Sunday at 12:30 start. So plenty of domestic harness racing for you. Oamaru on Wednesday, just before 2 o'clock, 11 race card. And of course, then there's Nelson and then there's Blenheim. And Blenheim, of course, the Marlborough circuit will be raced on the grass. So, gee, there's a lot of racing ahead.
And it's not just about all the big names, of course, we're going to see some more of those shortly, but anybody who gets a maiden winner along the way, even a placing, and it's an awfully hard deal to breed one or buy one and get into the races. So if you have a winner over the summer or a placing, good luck to you. It's great stuff.
We want to have a look at some of these two feature races actually coming out of Cambridge for you. Here we go, the Trotters, Kai Valley Blur taking on Temporale, taking on the likes of Sunny Ruby. Can she bounce back? And everybody knows crawled again by the draw, Michael.
I thought a race in 2 between the 4 and the 6, and I'll be backing the 4. I think he's got a great chance to beat the 6, but so far over the summer, the 6 has been winning more often than not. Here is Kai Valley Blur. Last time he raced under something similar. This was a mile at 1700 on Friday. Clearly outpointing Speeding Spur, and I thought he was the run of the race in the National Trot Grid.
Well, that makes him the horse to beat, even with Temporale there, because Temporale's more than likely going to have to sit outside him, and that's not easy to do at Cambridge.
No, that'll be interesting. The gate speed could be crucial for this and also for the feature pace. Now, the feature pacing race is a mile, which is even trickier because the big names are drawn wide. Heaven Rocks off the Unruly and Jack's Legend are drawn wide. This was Jack's Legend's chance to draw handy, do the Jules job, blast across them, get the lead of the trail. All of a sudden, the 7, the 8 and the 6, who was very good in the Auckland Cup, have to concede Star Galleria a start. I think it could lead here, Star Galleria, and be awfully hard to catch. I'm not saying it'll win, but he was good enough to beat Heaven Rocks 2 starts ago, now 3 starts ago, sorry, coming up the passing lane. I'd roll the dice, Greg. If you get to Cambridge over a mile, I would stay in front, but that's Tony Hurley's decision to make. Tony Hurley having a crack at a very big chance at the double this week with Star Galleria and Temporale, but of course, maybe big Heaven Rocks will just overpower them, but I wouldn't be taking short odds to find out.
I wanted to show you that video to remind us that he can beat the other horse, and around Cambridge it's certainly on
He can beat him if he stays in front.
Yeah.
If he hands up, he can't.
No, that's all right. Speaking of beatings, the best bet competition, is that nearly over, or are you going to change the rules
No,
again?
we're going to keep going.
You've got to, because
my
you're
one
behind.
didn't win last week, but I said back Titan Banner for a place. The bookies gave us $1.95. I thought it was very generous of them. Well played, you bookmaker people.
Dance time for you?
You're going to Roxburgh tomorrow.
Yeah,
You're not actually going to Roxburgh.
No, I'm going with Paddington Central. Young Darren Keese, I'm pretty sure will be driving it again. Just had no luck, this horse. He's got gate speed. I reckon he might press forward, get the lead, and if he does, he's the horse to beat there, but you're with Dance Time.
Yeah, he looked big run behind Colepecker last time out. He's in the right race at Cambridge. Don't think he'll be paying huge money, but we're going to get some season highlights so far. Sort of like an end-of-year highlights. What's been the highlight of the season so far? Well, both Greg and I actually went for the same one. Amarito's son winning the Dominion because it was something different. I got mine taken away from me, so I went all the way to Perth. It took them a long time to get there. So this, I thought, was maybe the other highlight of the season. You know who it is.
Lazarus has won the Inter-Dominion. Chicago Bull second. Tiger Tara third.
Yeah, that was a terrific performance by him, of course. This record now of the All-Stars, having won back-to-back Auckland Cups, back-to-back New Zealand Cups, and now back-to-back Inter-Dominions with 3 different horses. You're chucking the New Zealand free-for-all in these types of races. Just phenomenal.
The Miracle Mile's the one they haven't got.
They haven't got it,
no,
yeah.
At the moment, Lenny
It's
the
the box
Shark's
set
got
missing.
it. They almost got it. So they could have potentially 5. Yep, 5 potentially in the Miracle Mile. They won't all get there, but there's a chance they'll be at this moment. They're a chance to have 5 in a Miracle Mile. Your highlight also was one of my highlights from an emotional level. I don't know Cherie Tomlinson very well, but what a great story for the family this was, and this was the cool story of the summer.
Yeah, it was. In the last 6 weeks, when you consider this horse has been able to win the Dominion, Joe's Dreams come out and dead heated in the Queen of Hearts, of course, that for Amanda Kitty. That was amazing. But yeah, the ladies are doing everything. Of course, Natalie Rasmussen, first female driver to win an Auckland Cup. So it's been an enormous 6 weeks.
And again, Gregory, when we look at this, you think to yourself, the fairy tales that trotting produces year in, year out. I'm going to keep going on about this. When does somebody thump their hand on the table and say, bring back the trotters into Dominion, so people like Ken Ford and Cherie Tomlinson and a whole bunch of people like that can come out and have a chance at winning an Inter Dominion? It's not a question of whether it should do it. It's a question, Greg, of why the hell haven't we done it already? Bring back the trotters into Dominion.
Yep, hard to argue with that. Michael, what about for you over the next 3 or 4 weeks? How many trips across the Tas for you?
I start travelling again in a couple of weeks, but I'm actually going to go to the Gallop. So I'm going to be doing a fair bit of galloping work, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the Karaka Million as much as anything else. Lazarus coming back on Friday night, it's a cool deal. I'm going to stay up and watch it. It's about 12:50 in the morning. But yeah, I'm sure for a lot of people, it's going to be the grass track circuits. I'm heading to Kamara. That's going to be the meeting. I'm put the cap on, allow myself to have a beer at the races and enjoy myself. What about you, buddy? Are you tired after what's been a pretty crazy last 8 weeks, or are you thinking to yourself, I'm excited about what happens next?
Oh, look, I'm pleased that part of the season's over, but to be fair to say, you can't not be excited about what's ahead across the Tasman, because so many of our very best horses are going across there and they're likely to succeed. So, yeah, get another job if you're not excited about what's ahead in the next couple of months, I say.
Yeah, man, thanks to all the people who have helped us out over the last little bit. We're taking a 3-week break. We'll come back and we'll preview not only the Hunter Cup and talk about Lazarus and all the things that have happened apart from that. We'll also preview the sales. Sales are coming up in the next about 6 weeks' time. So February 12, they kick off at Karaka. So, Gregory, you have a little bit of a break. I won't see you for a couple. I'll see you at Kamara.
Yeah,
I'll probably see you at the hotel the night before. That's
right.
it. Boxing's going away for 3 weeks. Be happy.
Yeah, thanks very much for
Happy New Year.
your attendance once again.
Yes.
See you in a month.
Thanks for popping by.